Welcome to Trust AI Partners, powered where we dive into the cutting edge of tech innovation. Join us as we explore how AI automation is transforming the industry. If you're ready to discover the future of AI innovation and how your company can get ahead, stay tuned and connect with us for more information. I'm your host, Jim Hoover, and joining us today is Nima Etemadi. Nima is the co-founder and CEO of Cake Life Bake Shop in Philadelphia's Fishtown. Known for award-winning, unpretentious baking and genuinely welcoming community space. Beyond Cake Life, Nima has served as the longest-standing board chair of the Sustainable Business Network of Greater Philadelphia, bringing 15 plus years of food industry leadership, organizational development, and mentorship. He's also an avid swimmer, ceramicist, Persian food enthusiast, proud uncle and immigrant, perspectives that shape how he leads and builds inclusive businesses. Nima, we're excited to have you here. Today we'll unpack marketing strategies and engagement approaches in food and beverage and dig into Cake Life's journey from a single Fishtown storefront into mail order expansion. Before we dive in, would you introduce yourself and share a quick snapshot of Cake Life today?
Perfect. Like you said, Jim, my name is Nima Etemadi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cake Life Bake Shop over in Fishtown. Um, you know, I have, lived in Philadelphia for about like 13-ish years now, and it's been a wonderful city to live in and to build Cake Life in. Um, you summed up most of what I got going on in your intro, so I appreciate that. But yeah, like it's just been, right now I'm sort of mostly occupied with really trying to get Cake Life to, where we think it can go, as well as, my chairship with SBN, the Sustainable Business Network, has been, throwing lots of like interesting learning opportunities, which has been really wonderful. And yeah, just trying to like, you know, keep the plate spinning and live life at the same time, which is always a little challenging.
So you mentioned living life. I'm curious, what's bringing you the most joy in the bakery right now?
Part of what I really love about the shop, it's not just like about the shop physically, but about the business, is how collaborative it has become. Like when we started, it was just my business partner and myself. We did everything soup to nuts. We were sending emails, we were washing dishes, we were making wedding cakes, we were delivering. The whole deal was, the two of us. Now there is the two of us plus about 16 other people, and they're all a really everyone plays their part in making it what it is. Like we are so much more than sort of the sum of our parts, but then like at the same time it's like, you know the folks who have come before also have all played a really important part in helping the business evolve. Like whether that's like individual elements, like having a certain cake recipe be like just a little tweak, just a little better than it was before, and all these things, right? It's like an accumulation of all that, like all the way to like systems changes. And so, it's been really cool to sort of look back and see, there's been so much evolution in myself as a leader and so much evolution in the business in terms of like what can we do and do smoothly and make comfortable. So yeah, it's been just, I think, like, having the opportunity to see other people um, grow as a result of the business has been really satisfying, and and in turn they contribute to it as they do that, so it's been nice.
So could you take us through a typical day and what's occupying most of your time?
Yeah, so on the typical day, we have two shifts that cycle through our kitchen. So the first one starts at 5 a.m. and they go until till 1, and then they switch into the evening shift. And so like the kitchen is busy from before the shop even opens. And we open our doors at 8 a.m. and on most days we're open till either 7 or 9 p.m. depending on the day. And so there is this interesting arc when you are sort of part of the flow of it, where like you really see how much you become a part of people's lives. You become a part of their routine. Whether that's like getting, we have a lot of folks who just come in for a cup of coffee because we brew excellent coffee with Rival Brothers Coffee Roasters who are local in Philadelphia, but we make all of our own syrups, which really helps us have a product that stands out for people locally. So it gives us an opportunity to have signature drinks in a way that we could never if we were just pumping Monin syrup like every other coffee shop. Um, and so, yeah, like you see that part of it with folks, but you also see where like, I think baking is a part of life events. It like punctuates the big things in life for people. So whether it's positive moments like you're getting married, like it's your birthday, like your child is born, these kinds of things, to more sad moments too, like whether it's funerals or like someone has passed away and you want to bring something for the family or like what have you. And so like you really get a palpable sense throughout the day of how much you are part of little moments and big ones for different people, which is, depending on what kind of person you are, has its own sort of satisfaction and fulfillment to it. So yeah, we start seeing folks kind of start milling through starting around 8 a.m. And, it's, my, the management folks tend to start around like 9 or 10. And so we try to sort of align ourselves somewhat with each other too, so that we have time. Everyone has time with their teams, but they also have time with the other managers. And, we can confer on, it's funny. We've had the shop open for like 9 years and still um, things come up all the time that we have never dealt with before. So there's always like whether it's new opportunities or new challenges or what have you, there's always something new where we're like, we need to figure out how to handle this thing and like who's going to do it and how this is going to go. And so, yeah, we just start sort of crossing things off the list.
And so, how are you able to? I imagine there might be typical times where it could be easy to get lost in the minutia, the details of putting fires out, or maybe there are administrative issues or something like that. And how do you separate yourself from that to make sure that you're allocating enough time working on the business rather than in the business all the time?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that thing. That was one of the things ever. So this is a first time business, Cake Life, for both myself and my business partner. So we've learned a lot on the job in a way that like neither of us like did like a school program to or something to prepare us for. And inevitably there have been hard lessons as well as easy ones. And either way, it's like my time machine is broken. So here we are today. I'm like, what can we do from this point, right? And my that a thing people used to say to us a lot early on, people who were much more steeped in the business community than we were, would always say, as quickly as possible, you need to start working on the business and not at the business. Well, it took us about 10 years to sort of sort that out, which is not ideal, but again, it's like my time machine is broken and here we are, right? So I wish we had done it sooner, but like we didn't. And, now we know. But yeah, like about like right around when we were reopening after the pandemic in that moment. Um, so like for us, this is like 2021, you know, we hired for the first time. Well, at the time he was a um, front of house manager, but he grew into our COO. And so I think that hire of just like a person who could handle that in the first place and then his elevation into that position was a critical thing for our whole business, including for myself. My business partner is we love each other. We've been best friends for our whole adult lives. We but we're very different. So she has sort of expressed like she is continues to be more interested in the maker side of things than in like the business side of things. And so, she like does her thing. She makes beautiful cakes. She's very happy with that, which also means that like the actual business development part is my piece in it still. And so, bringing, our COO, his name's Brian, bringing Brian into the picture and, putting him in the role he has now, and him spreading his wings and occupying that more fully has really enabled my job to change.
Mm-hmm.
And like, the reality is that prior, without having someone else doing that, that was my whole existence, in this business. And it was like in the spare time I had, I was trying to occasionally do some of like the owner jobs, right? That like other people can't. But it was like just with the spare time between putting out this fire and that fire, and so it was like it felt very much like, and it's kind of a cliche, but like like we were building the plane as we flew it. And that on one hand you're like, woo, it's exciting, and on the other hand it's terrifying, and it's probably not going to be the best built plane it could
Mm-hmm.
be if that's the case, right? So the pandemic really gave us this moment, right, where we were like, look, if we're reopening and it's into a very changed world than when everything shut down. And it was still a moment of great uncertainty because like the vaccines were brand new. No one really knew how long they would last or how well they would work or what was safe still or what wasn't, or like what to do, all this stuff. And so we were like, look, like if there was ever a moment for us to reflect on the first, you know, 4 years of the business and how did that go? What worked well and what didn't, right? And what can we change? Where can we do better? That was that moment. So we really tried to, we still had the brand and the space and all these things, but we really tried to start from scratch in a lot of ways and rethink our policies, rethink our systems. We rethought our recipes. We retested everything from vanilla cake and buttercream on to the more elaborate things. So like everything kind of started like that. And Brian was a really integral part of that, and it was really nice to do some of that rethinking with another voice with that kind of mind in the mix. And now that it is his job primarily to carry a lot of these systems on, it it's been so helpful that he was a key player in building a lot of them in the first place with us. And so like that then allows me to do things like we often say a lot of the just generalize that a lot of Brian's work is internal, whereas more of mine is external. So like I certainly still work with him on sort of dialing things in with the internal systems and whatnot. I'm still part of like when we have our menu planning conversations and when our kitchen manager is like testing new things, like very much part of that conversation, the creative direction of everything. But a lot of what I think about is business development. I think about marketing. I think about external communications. I think about ambassadorship, and partnering with other organizations and folks. Um, so yeah, like there is just so much more room for that than there was before. Um, we also finally we had a PR company when we first started the business, and then that engagement ended with the pandemic, and then we sort of had an engagement with a different one. And what each of them said, which seemed like an impossible dream at first, was you need, if you want press for anything, especially like bigger press ever, you need to be 3 months ahead all the time. You need to get 3 months ahead and stay 3 months ahead in terms of planning. And with a bakery like ours, where we do a lot of seasonal items, we have like a monthly rotation. We like to keep things interesting and a little like, hang on to your favorites, but also, introduce some new items every time you visit. That was a really challenging thing to do, like getting 3 months ahead, because like you're not just making decisions, you need to test the thing, get it so final that like the look is right and you can now take pictures and like you have a price for it. because like you can't promote anything if you don't have any of these basic pieces of information. So like it wasn't just a matter of deciding, it was a matter of developing and like reaching a certain end stage of that, within the 2 to 3 month mark before we were going to roll something out. So a big part of that period too was that we finally got 3 months ahead. A lot of our kitchen organization changed. One of our team members who had joined us as an intern years ago, straight out of pastry school, learned and grew, always loved working with her. In the early kind of reopening stages of the pandemic, she did a thing which like sort of it always gives me a little bit of pause, right? When this happens, like, she left and she went and worked at another bakery. She worked at another bakery after that. Neither of those went well in terms of like how she felt about those experiences. And she came back, which I love. I love that when people like, especially like when you're someone's like first job in the industry, they don't really know, they can't compare you to other jobs in the industry. All they know is you. So it always feels good when they go, because we make a very conscientious effort to be different than a lot of typical food spaces in terms of our culture and things like that. And so it feels good when someone goes and tries something else and it's like, you know what, I wanted that first thing, let's go back. And so anyway, she came back, which was great. And there was an opportunity to promote her to kitchen manager, and we all, her included, decided to sort of take a chance on that promotion. And, it wasn't something she had experience with, but we also had a lot of faith that she's like very smart, very dedicated, like, her palate is on point, her technique is on, like, she's great. And we had a lot of faith that she could do it, especially if Brian and I and my business partner kind of supported her in that transition and sort of, frankly, like that kind of promotion, the hard part is not like, it's not like you need to cook better. It's like now you need to become a manager, which is a different job, right? From just like working in a kitchen. And so really our focus was trying to like support her around that. And, she is a natural, which is always helpful, but, she has learned and she has grown and she's a great manager. And so, it's been really wonderful to see, our kitchen under her stewardship is chill. Like nobody's panicking about anything. They're executing fantastic stuff. People are showing up on time. They're making beautiful things. They seem to be like, there is a good feeling when you walk through that kitchen. And, it is, and we're 3 months ahead. And her recipe testing is on point. We've got, we've implemented much more thorough costing software than we ever had in place before. And so, yeah, like we are seeing exactly what something costs us before we serve it in a way that felt like a distant truth prior. And yeah, like it's just been really great to see, like the trickle down effect of that. The same as we were sort of talking about before, like it's wonderful to see the evolution of the place and the people within it, but then it's also cool to see like the trickle down effects of that evolution. And so, yeah, like, a lot of the opportunities that, whether things have come to fruition or not, there have been a lot of opportunities and conversations that just wouldn't have been possible prior. We wouldn't have been ready, and so it's a wonderful feeling to kind of see people really filling out their roles in a way that, depending on the time and the person, had been challenging prior. So yeah, it's like there's a good momentum that I'm just trying to sort of keep going and growing.
Momentum breeds momentum. Since you had made some comments, it sounds like you made some great decisions with putting the right people in place and taking time to work on the business and strategy. I'm curious, what's the single hardest challenge blocking growth over the past 12 months?
So what I've come to realize is, I mean, an early mistake that we sort of made too in being first time business owners is that my business partner and I never separated our jobs until like about 2021, 22 ish. And I think 2022, it was either 2022 or 2023 when I officially became CEO of the company. And that clarity has been incredibly helpful for both of us, right? And the, sorry, remind me your question one more time.
The number one challenge that has been holding back growth.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah. And so in that time, since I have sort of more officially taken on the CEO role, right? Because it's really like, you know, it's not just like a figurehead title, right? It's a job that somebody needs to do. And so in that capacity, it has become abundantly clear to me because I have often, been challenged with like, we will sometimes sell a lot of stuff and like not make money. That is very possible in our business, and it's incredibly frustrating because it's like, wow, like we tried really hard, like we worked really hard, and why didn't we make money this season or this whatever, right? And when I am sitting and looking at it, it is abundantly clear now that like being first time business owners, like we didn't really open the kind of space that like we need, honestly. Like our kitchen is too small. Our cold storage is too small. And the the what our space allows for is a very artisanal production. And we can make a good amount of stuff in there, but we don't have the cold space and we don't have the equipment to make it efficiently. And so it's like things that could be done, like when things that could be done by one person with a big table and the right machine, instead take like that one person almost all day because they only have a little table and they don't have that machine, and so like the number of just like items that we can generate um, out of that kitchen with the team the size we have is just fewer because like they can't have the space and the equipment that they would need to produce more efficiently. So what, in recognizing that, like that is now a thing that, in terms of business development, it's really helpful to know that that is an obstacle to our growth because like any growth step that we take, that needs to get resolved. Like,
where are you at in the process of solving that problem?
I'm deep into thinking and like, I am not deep at all in terms of like what the actual, in terms of taking the step. Right. And so right now, my thing is like, I'm trying to dial in what we can do in the space that we have in a way that is efficient enough for us to for it to pave the way into a next stage. Because I know for us to have any kind of meaningful, like second location or anything like that, we need to have a commissary kitchen. Whether it's attached to that second location or separate from both, like there needs to be a commissary kitchen. And that in turn means like any expansion is a double expansion. Like moving into one space means we'll have to move into two, which is also terrifying, like financially more than anything. Like that's
Double
there's
the
a big
cost.
burden. It's double the cost, and so like I'm still kind of in the stage now where I'm like, all right, I recognize the problem. I see what the solution might be, but what can I do to make this a safer solution for us financially, to make it a less risky solution? And, to really feel positive about what the result of that could be. How much more do I need to bring in? And what kind of business do I need to bring in? Because like, for example, wholesale, which is
Hmm.
often what people think about with a bakery. Is, people often now, they talk about things like restaurant margins being paper thin,
Hmm.
right? And they are, like, and bakeries even more so, because we don't sell alcohol. Like, most of the time, like, your restaurant makes money on the cocktails, not on the food.
Hmm.
um and so, like, we don't have the cocktails, all we got is the food. And
But there is a
you know
cake shot, right? No, I'm just kidding.
they're the cakes, but even then, like, nobody's coming for the
Yeah.
meal. But it's a very specific thing. But yeah, like, wholesale is, you're losing any semblance of a margin that you might
Mm.
have, right? Because, like, that's what the person you sell to wants to make. Like, they're making the margin, so you need to produce so efficient and at such low cost that there's still something in it for you. Like, it's still worth it for you to exist and do this work as a wholesale bakery.
So it's
Um,
not worth the time and resources to go that direction.
for us, it's not.
Yeah.
It's just like we would have to build a factory
Hmm.
that produces in a way that is very far from how
Hmm.
we produce, and distributes in a way that is far, bigger than how we distribute. So, like, that's not really my goal. Like, I want to be, interfacing with people sort of at a retail level, whether that is through our shop, through special orders, or through, online orders or whatever. Like, I know that I need to focus on sort of that retail entry point, and not on a wholesale one. And part of that is that, and I think every retail bakery is a little different. Our bakery, we really put emphasis on quality. So, like, part of how we stand apart from a lot of our competitors is that, frankly, our stuff is, it's a level or two up in terms of the taste, in terms of the look, in terms of whatever. There are some, don't get me wrong, there are some people out there making beautiful stuff. Most places are making just okay stuff,
Hmm.
right? So, like, the places that make beautiful things really stand apart. So it's important to us to be one of those places that's making a beautiful product. It tastes delicious. It feels like that special treat you want. And, I think anything we do that grows our scale needs to not come as a sacrifice to that quality and that aspect. So that's really, like, a big part of sort of what I'm looking for, right? It's like where the different interfaces and sales channels and whatnot I can create for that retail or close to retail price point. And, there's, and I think too that this often happens with wholesale bakeries, right? Because they're basically factories. They have to be for that to sell at that price point. And usually the goal is adequacy, not
Hmm.
excellence,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not trying to make the best cheese Danish you've ever had. They're trying to make a good enough cheese Danish
Hmm.
for you to buy with your coffee, and that's it. Like, it's like the goal is to be like a 4 out of 10, and, and that's fine. Like, that serves a purpose in the marketplace. That 4 out of 10. But, like, my goal is to be somewhere between an 8 and 10 out of 10, depending on, the day. So yeah, like, I often find myself thinking about just like, what are those channels where I can move that kind of product well, and, how can I solidify that kind of demand, in a way that lets me do that kind of double expansion in the future. Like, what are the safest ways for me to take those steps to make that happen?
What percentage of the business is online versus in person?
Right now, it's less online than in person and special orders, like, which I describe as like backdoor, even though that sounds shady, backdoor, but that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
I just mean things that, like, where the order goes out and to the customer rather than the customer coming in to our shop. So, whether that's like a wedding order, or whether that's a corporate order, or what have you. And so, yeah, like, I think those two are the by far the biggest sort of pieces right now, is like people coming in retail, and orders going out. Um, and then like in terms of mail order, we're really at the beginning of that process. Like we've been sort of dabbling for a year, sort of getting our sea legs a little bit. Part of what we have learned is that there's a lot yet to learn. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately like digital marketing is a big um, it's like the more I learn about it, the more I see need for us to put emphasis there, because it is um, there is so much deep expertise
Mm-hmm.
out there, and like and frankly like it needs to be outsourced. Like unless you happen to have someone who's already deep in it on your team, it's there's too much to bite off, and
And
folks.
yeah, and so getting into that a little bit deeper with the digital marketing and the expertise required, what have you done? What have you tried? What have you experimented with? What's worked? What's not worked so far?
Yeah, I mean, so we use Square as a POS. And one of the things that's nice about Square is that they have a lot of like tentacles, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And um, part of what we've been learning since we took them on, we switched to them like right around like 2021 ish. And part of what we've learned is that like they have a lot of facets, but they don't go that deep in any one of them. So like it's like they have an online aspect where you can like very easily create a website and sell things online, which is great. But and we've done that. So like that's in place. It felt like we outgrew it like 6 months after we created. And so like already like part of what I'm looking to do now is to like I want to move us into Shopify.
Uh-huh.
I There's a lot of just like logistical things that are helpful for us as a business to sort of know and put in place that are also things that will make life easier for the customer rather than more complicated. Like it helps everyone. And like I think Square, for all their good intentions, is like they don't have the capability to do what we need ultimately. And so this is where like I think things like handling rotating seasonal menus
Mm-hmm.
is like we have found that like finding a good system by which to take pre-orders is very like very hard. Like we have found ourselves picking from what we think of as the best of the worst, and we have not found anything that we think of as better than that. Which is not ideal. Like you never want to feel that way about a system you're asking people to use to buy from you. Like you want to feel good about it, feel confident about it, and you know we just don't have that quite yet. And so like we've been using some other, like right now we use Talk, which is mostly a reservations platform, which don't have tables with reservations or anything like that, but they have another part of their platform which is just for pre-orders. And so we noticed it. We noticed other local businesses using it for things like holiday meal pre-orders, or
Mm-hmm.
order your ready to eat Thanksgiving, and whatnot. And we liked how some of that looked, and so we were like, let's give it a shot. And it's been working for us for a couple of years, but it definitely doesn't look that great. It's not that easy to use for the customers. There's a lot of information we would like to include that it doesn't let you include. Like it's just like it's not very malleable. And again, it's not really like like their whole thing is reservations. This is like a side project on their software, and it's the whole thing that we use it for. And so like there are understandably things that we would love to see develop there that are probably never going to happen, because it's just not their priority.
And
So
what's holding you back from making the switch to Shopify?
I mean, right now we are just like we are in the planning stages of like we are trying to secure who is the right person to build that Shopify site for us. And just like that, like we're sort of early stage on that. But we are sort of observing just like what sites have things that we want to integrate, and finding those like integrations within Shopify too, so that we can sort of hand off the whole package when we do find the right designer to say like, here's all the things we think could work that you don't have to hunt around for if you don't want to. And like, here's like, just trying to organize our ask, because we have also learned that like just trying to understand what our need is can be complicated for people, because like I never would have thought that the needs of a seasonal bakery could be complicated for ordering, but it really is when you start to sort of dig into it. So, like for example, I can put like a funfetti cake on my pre-order site, but the the reality of producing that funfetti cake is that there's only so many I can make per week while we make all these other things, right? And so how many can I can put a maximum cap on how many of those I can sell through my pre-order site. That's fine. That cap is typically not a thing that anyone can automate, that it just resets every week. You have to go and set the thing, because like it just thinks you don't have that anymore, and it will mark it sold out indefinitely as you go forward. Or you can have there be no cap, so people can buy as many as happens. But if you can say only make 30 of those in a week, you could sell 60 that week, and now what? And so like there are all these things where it's like it needs a lot of monitoring.
Yeah.
It needs a lot of just hand holding that otherwise, I think in a successful software suite, so a lot of these things can be automated, and the whole package can be more visually appealing and easier to use. Like the user experience part can be further along.
And it sounds like you've already done your homework, and Shopify solves these issues, the functionality that you need, the packaging, the advertising that you need. It's just really a matter of finding the right partner to be able to develop, put it all together, incorporate the content, incorporate the setup, and make it live. Is that kind of where you're at?
That is the hope, right? Because like essentially like we need to have the mail order site be functional and appealing, but we also need to give people the ability to pre-order things and have that be functional and appealing. And in an ideal world, they could both happen on the same platform, but then that gets confusing for both the person setting it up and for the customer. So like, is it possible to do that without it being confusing? Like, because like say you can only get pumpkin maple cake in September, October, November, but if you want to order it in December, it's not available. Something like that. Like, how do you make that stuff sort of work? And it's a local item. It's not a thing that we can ship. So like, how do I have that site on the same page, say, as our pedal pistachio cookies, which are a signature item that can ship anywhere, and we make them all year. And like, how do we make that a thing that makes sense to an external user, and that feels? And so that's a question we haven't answered yet, right? Because ultimately we need to find the sort of the Shopify pro who thinks they can wrap their head around it and really see what they think of sort of solving this puzzle. Because it might be that there needs to be a partition between the two, between like shipping and pre-orders. We sort of handle them a little separately. That might be the best case scenario. It also might be that we just like use Shopify for shipping, and then we outsource pre-orders to a software suite that is like an evolution from Talk that we're using right now. Because part of the complication of all this too is that like I did a bunch of research 2 years ago, and now everything's different.
Yeah.
And even the companies that I researched that didn't meet our needs 2 years ago have grown and changed. So it's like it's a tough thing to sort of just keep on top of and know what the right um, partner, who the right partner might be on a particular thing, because everyone tries to say it's them.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's not. And one thing your customer really doesn't like is you changing your ordering system. So like in
So
some ways, yeah, go ahead.
whatever that decision winds up to be, it needs to be the right one the first time.
That's the hope, right? Or like if you're gonna, and if it's not, you know, you really want to make sure you get it right the second time,
Yeah.
because you don't want to put people through the change over and over again. Like you want to make that happen less frequently for folks.
And so Nima, with to whatever degree you're comfortable sharing publicly, can you give us an idea of where the business is at today in rough numbers, monthly top line, ordering volume, or anything that you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I mean, we are in that little spot that I've had bankers make fun of, frankly. Um, that we are like right between like a million a year and 1.5, depending. Whereas like, and like the reason that bankers have often sort of made fun of this is because they're like, to them that's kind of that danger zone for a small business. That's like as you're trying to like scale up and make this a real thing. But in order for you to do that scaling, you need to start engaging with the kinds of systems and expectations that people have of much bigger businesses. So now you are paying for and using the things that a business maybe 5, 10 times your size would use and pay for, but your business is not that big yet. So whatever margin you could have is just like disappearing into that stuff. So like the way one banker from Chase put it to me is he was like, I often see people who their business makes like 1.25 a year, and they're walking away. They're like, if they're coming away with profit, they might be coming away with like 5 to 10,000 a year in profit after all. If he was like, or I'll talk to someone whose business grosses 300,000 a year and 250 of that is profit. And like, which one makes more sense to have, right? It's like, it's the smaller one, even though it's like, it's smaller. But he was like, that business is almost impossible to scale. It's like, for it to be profitable, it has to stay micro. And it's like, and as soon as you start to like scale it, like you're probably going to start to run into these other, like to this other phase that is more difficult to manage. And so we're sort of in that zone where I'm like, and I'm trying to push us through it and to the other side, as quickly as we can manage. But yeah,
what
like it's like,
what is a realistic target that you have jumping back into that time machine 12 to 18 months out? If you're able to figure out a way to get these systems in place, get the software in place, where do you see that taking an effect on the business? How much growth do you anticipate?
I mean, I think we could plausibly, out of the one location that we're at, I think we could plausibly get up to like about 2, like somewhere between 2 and 2.5 tippy tops is probably it. But we'll really be maxing out that space at that point. What I would love to see is really having ourselves like use something like online sales and the growth in online sales to push us into a commissary space, in a way that feels less risky than also opening a second location at the same time in kind of like a bigger way. I think like we potentially could open something like a kiosk location, which doesn't necessarily have to be like a stand. I'm not talking about like a stand in the mall or something. I'm talking about like a little storefront somewhere where we're doing coffee and we're doing, where we're not making everything in the back, in a kitchen in the back, like where
Yeah.
essentially we're serving them from the kitchen we already have and just like bringing things for them to sell with coffees and stuff. That kind of shift, I think, is something I would really like to see us line up in the next like year to 2 years. Like, I want to get us ready to grow beyond the confines of the space that we're in right now in a way that will tee us up. Either the commissary is part of that, or we take on an expansion that we can handle with what we have and then grow into the commissary sort of as the second step instead of the first. Um, that is really kind of what I'm hoping to lay the groundwork for in the next couple of years. Um, but
And
yeah, just like
in terms of marketing, what have you done? What's been the most effective from a marketing standpoint? Are you doing social media? Are you doing ad placement? What's worked or not worked there?
so we don't do any ad placement. Um, we do social media. We primarily Instagram, of
Oh,
which we cross post to Facebook. The reality is that like we're small. Like, I'm the social media person.
hmm.
I'm not, like, I can't spend all day doing it.
Yeah.
So I have to decide like where I'm going to spend my efforts. And so for now, for just like recognizing who the audience is for us, Instagram makes sense as a
Hmm.
place to put that out there at the moment. I think the other social media stream I really would like to grow us into is LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Um, I think like those two platforms just like make sense as our priorities in this moment. But I think part of what I've learned too, though, is that um, our website is like, honestly, I'm very happy with our website at the moment, and it's a key piece of us marketing ourselves in general, like to virtually anyone. But I think too, like, part of what we've seen is that we always thought about Instagram as like the best marketing stream we could have. Like, we're like, that's the thing. And now I'm like, oh my God, no, it's not.
Hmm.
Like, Instagram is very useful and it's a tool, right? And like, it helps our customers locally understand what we like. Every Friday I post our weekend specials and I'm like, here's the things on the menu this week, and people can apprise very quickly if they're excited about something, if they want to come get it, whatever. Like, it's useful for them. But the reality is that most people who follow you on Instagram don't live in your community.
Hmm.
And so, like, if you want them to buy something from you, first of all, there's so many that are international that probably can't, right? So, like, they're just like, you can't really market to them. They're just like building hype, and that's it. And then, like, a lot of folks, like, you're shipping or they're not buying something, and that's it. And it's a limited stream in that sense. And I think what makes the most sense for a business like ours, um, and I think this applies to like virtually any brick and mortar, is like really thinking about local marketing
Yeah.
more than sort of
So
beyond that. So, like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So talking about the local marketing a little bit deeper, have you optimized the SEO for the website and also for Google profile analytics?
So that is the next stage of what I want to do, because our website got put together by I used to have like a someone helping out with digital marketing, um, and we collaborated on that website, and I'm so happy for it. That said, at the time, at least, I don't, you know, her skill set might have expanded to include this now, but
Hmm.
SEO was not a big part of that
Yeah.
at the time. And so, one of the like there I don't have that. There's certain pages on the website I want to revise. Most of it I want to leave as is, but I want to really revise the SEO and sort of train it in for like the Google Analytics, because that piece is missing right now, and is so important, right? Like we're recognizing how crucial it is. And beyond that too, the other sort of program I'm really trying to push at the moment, and which frankly like is higher priority for me than mail order in the moment, is corporate sales.
Hmm.
Like I think Philadelphia, like I mean any city more than rural areas is going to have a lot more concentration of businesses that one could sell to. But Philadelphia in particular has a lot of like bigger institutions in a way that not all cities do. So like we talk about Philadelphia as being Eds and Mets. um, Lots of educational institutions, lots of medical ones, including pharmaceutical companies and research companies and all this stuff. And so the there's a lot of opportunity to um, bring those into, well, to engage with those as a smaller business, right? But in a way that can be very impactful for us. And
Hmm.
so part of what I'm really looking at is like, and I often say, it's sort of a joke, but it's not really, is that like when you're making wedding cakes and you're thinking about really like tailoring your market to that, people get married 0 to 3 times in their lives, right? And if they do it more than once, it's probably not going to be in super quick succession. There's probably going to be a few years in between. They might be living in a different area the next time around, um, and so they're probably not going to get their second cake from you. You're
Hmm.
probably just making one of those wedding cakes. And if you're lucky, if they have kids, you might make a couple birthday cakes after that. So it's a relatively limited sale. And like even that wedding cake, like it's not necessarily like a $3,000 cake. It might be a $300 cake. And again, the the dominoes that fall are few and far
Hmm.
between. Whereas, like, say, with a corporate order, if your business employs, say, 200 or 300 people at the Philadelphia campus, and you're having an employee appreciation day, and you want to give everybody a cupcake, all right, well, that's like, now we're talking about like a $1,500 order. And like, you're probably going to, if you like it and you enjoy how that goes, maybe you want to do something when the holidays come up. Or maybe you want to do some corporate gifting.
Yeah.
Maybe you want, but
And
the order size more, and the repeatability.
right. So thinking about that repeatability, do you have a system in place where you're able to one capture uh, contact information for existing customers and then be able to nurture that over time and be able to retarget that list on in any sort of automated basis in any channel of media?
So for now, we've been using Square a little bit for that, and MailChimp, and sort of those have been our main things. But that is also one of those areas where like Square does something which is better
Mm-hmm.
than nothing,
Mm-hmm.
but you outgrow it very quickly.
Yeah.
So sort of we're already looking at other software options that might better serve us without going overboard, because sometimes like you do something like you spend a lot of money on Salesforce and you use 5% of its
Mm-hmm.
capabilities, you're overwhelmed by the other 95%, and you might as well have just not done it. um, so yeah, just sort of looking for the right thing that ideally can sync with both Square and MailChimp. um, but yeah, really sort of looking at the corporate orders that have come in organically, the relationships that have already formed without
Uh-huh.
there being specific intention, and looking at how do we just like, keep nurturing those and growing them. And then like I think after the holidays in particular this year, we're going to be looking harder at creating new relationships and sort of growing that out more intentionally. Because right now it's like a lot of the planning for holiday events and gifting is already happening or like has happened. So I don't really want to, um, chase that too hard with the corporate program in this moment. Like people are going to go with the people that they're sort of more used to, and anything that comes in new, we can sort of put into that pipeline. But I want to think more about sort of early next year, having a system in place so that we can start um, targeting businesses and institutions that make sense for us. We're already on the vendor list for Penn. I would love to join the vendor list for some of the other institutions. I would love to be, really just going to more procurement events and talking to folks. Like I would love to talk to the Comcast procurement team, and I know a lot of these big companies already have some of their own resources that they'll put into place, but like those things never cover the expanse of what their needs might.
What are the other software products that you're considering that you've looked at so far?
Wow. There's a lot that I consider. I kind of drive my COO a little bit crazy, to be honest, with this, because like there's a lot that get advertised to us.
Yeah.
In terms of, like Square, we've already been using as a POS, and we like it. We also recognize some of its limitations. There are things that, like, if other software suites become really key and Square doesn't integrate with them, like the POS is a piece that might change depending on the rest. Things like Constant Contact, things like Neon. I think at some point I tried using Monday as like an organizational sort of project management software for our team, and the reality is that honestly, I probably used it less than some of my team members did. It was a lot. It was a lot to organize for us, especially as like an entry point. Like I think for somewhere more advanced, when you can have someone who's like your Monday person who makes everything magical, that could make a lot of sense. It just wasn't for us. So maybe I would certainly consider something like Asana, which I've heard is like a little more just packaged and ready to use. Um, in terms of pre-orders, like I said, like we're hoping that Shopify meets our needs, but if it doesn't, I also have my eye on things like Sauce and Bento. I've been looking at things like owner.com and things like that, which like kind of seek to essentially take the place of some of your delivery app, like these and whatnot. Because the reality is, like being on something like Uber Eats is good marketing locally in a lot of ways for us. Like it's good for people to see what we have and for that we exist and all that stuff. It's not good for us to give 22% of every sale to Uber. Like
same thing with DoorDash, I guess. Same issue.
Exactly. Like all of these things take, depending on your deal with them, 18 to 25% of your sale. And especially for food business, like you essentially, like you're probably just not making money or not making a whole lot of money at that point on that sale. So, but at the same time, doing it yourself, like requires like both the software investment to get that all set up, but then it also incorporates like now you need to figure out deliveries and fulfilling those on a different kind of scale, and you just have less people aware that you exist. So like it's like this weird balancing act. Like we're still doing Uber Eats right now, but I certainly am open to talking to a software company that can leave us with a bigger share of those sales.
Yeah. And so thinking about your ideal customer profile and thinking about who's going to be the most valuable for targeting advertising towards, it could be margin related, it could be how often they are become a repeat customer, etc. If you had to pick one type of buyer, what category would that be? Would it be the corporations or would it be something different?
I think there's kind of two that we're sort of trying to pursue at once right now. One is like just like the retail customer who comes in, it's a special treat for them to get their cinnamon roll on the weekend. They want their nice cup of coffee. It's like the treat myself visitor, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like, but honestly, that visitor doesn't need as much maintenance in general. It's sort of like you keep the Instagram going, you keep things kind of fun and lively. Um, the customer that we're chasing more
Yeah,
is I would describe as like a gatekeeper at like a bigger institution or company.
I
So like
see.
most of the time, like you're not going to talk to like the head honcho of some department. You're going to talk to their assistant.
Like the office manager, for example.
Exactly. Like those folks are really crucial for us right now because that's how you get your stuff in the break room. That's
Mm-hmm.
how you get your holiday menus distributed to the team.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, and so like those folks are really high on our list in terms of just like, but it's like who are we intentionally pursuing next? It's really going to be.
And in terms of the in-person versus mail order or online order or pre-order, are you dealing with any sort of territorial restrictions geographically, or is it anywhere in the U.S.?
Right now it's anywhere in the U.S. Um, it's a funny thing because like we're pretty democratically aligned. It's fair to say, like in this weird polarizing time that everyone's in. I hear a lot of businesses say like we're trying to be neutral. I think there's a lot of folly in that, honestly.
Uh,
Like I understand the logic, but at the same time, I also think like this is not a time when the American people are all that neutral. And um, I think trying to appear that way um, can make you seem like you don't actually care about things that are important to your
yeah.
customers, you know? And so, for what it's worth, like I'm sure it costs me in some ways and it benefits me in others. We It has always been a very natural thing for us to be democratically in line, like aligned. We are a woman owned and trans immigrant owned company. Like we want folks to be included and we want minority groups to have equal rights with everybody, and that's very like it's very important to us. And so we like to be like forward about all that stuff, but because of it, um, we sometimes get these funny questions. Like whenever I, post something about shipping, there's almost always someone in the comments who's like, "Do you ship to Florida though? Do you ship to Texas though?" And I'm like, "Of course we do."
Yeah.
But like, funny that it even occurs to people. Like there might be some kind of like barrier there, but I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm like, if anything, I'm like I wish we could. I would ship to Florida extra if we could. Like, I'm like, yeah, like order like 500 big rainbow pride cookies and send them to Texas, please. You know,
So in terms of uh, outcomes 12 months out, other than let's say the percentage of increase in top line revenue and being able to solve some of these other software related challenges that we talked about earlier, is there anything else in that equation that you would really like to see happen over the next 12 months that would define success for you looking forward?
and again, not to like harp on about politics, but the reality of this moment we're in is that they're important, and I think we are, depending on who you might want to ask, right, it can be reasonably argued that we are perhaps careening towards authoritarianism, and we might divert it next year with the midterms and we might not,
Mhm.
right? Either way, I think even if we can divert it, there's going to be a lot of work to do. And I think we have been plunged into, we already know that we're in a climate crisis. You know, we already know that we are in, frankly, an equity crisis. We are quickly being plunged into a financial crisis as well, depending on how you want to raise it. So, like, there's a lot of things that are happening in the big picture around us that, like, my first priority is I want us to survive this. I want
Mm-hmm.
every business to survive this. And I think it's going to be a scary next year or two for everyone. And like, even if you are a Trump aligned like farmer, you're probably terrified right now. Like, it's like there's a lot of uncertainty coming. And it's like the only thing anyone can be uncertain of is that it will be uncertain, number one.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like my thing right now is like, I'm trying to get us solid because I want us to all be okay together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my goal. And like, survive is number one, thrive is number two. I really want thrive. I really want us to get to both. But like, in this, like, I see small businesses around me, especially in the food space, especially in the retail space, closing right and left.
Mm-hmm.
Both from just like people I know, like in the industry, and people I meet through Sustainable Business Network and hear about through that and whatever. Like, there are a lot of people closing doors,
Yeah.
and it, it's a tough time to exist in small business right now, like especially in places which most in America have a significant tourist income. And this administration is making nobody want to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody wants to come here. Like, most foreign visitors to Philadelphia are from Canada or the UK, both of which are actively boycotting America and American goods for good reason right now. So there's just like, there are less people, there are less dollars. And like, the foreign dollars that were coming in and getting spent are just like fewer and further. And so, like, depending on like what locale you're in and what kind of business you have, you have less of that income. And then the folks that are here are also, like, so many people have been fired or laid off or are afraid they're going to be, and people are hanging on to what they have real tight because they don't know what they're going to have tomorrow. So, like, it's a challenging business environment, like, it really is. And so I'm just like, number one, like, let's all be okay together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's find a way to just like to make this work and be solid. Like, that is, you know that, like, that's not ever the dream you have when you open a business,
Mm-hmm.
just that. But like, sometimes in the micro moment, like, that is the dream. And right now I feel like this is that moment, and like, I would love for us to like build on that and grow and thrive, and I'm certainly trying to like lay the groundwork for that. But like, my number one is like, let's make sure that myself, my business partner, and the 16 other people who are working on this thing, like, can keep on doing that.
Yeah. Right on. Well, and that's probably a good place to wrap it. Is the positive message of not just survive but thrive and build together. So I appreciate that. Listen, Nima, this was fantastic. Thanks for sharing Cake Life's journey from neighborhood staple to brand scaling through mail order, and for the transparent look at strategy and operations behind it. For listeners, we'll link to Cake Life's Bake Shop. Go treat yourself and support an inclusive Philly-born bakery. If you enjoyed today's conversation on market strategy and engagement, follow the show and connect with us to learn more about AI-driven automation and how it can help scale smarter. Nima, any final thoughts, or let anybody who might want more information on the brand or get in touch with you, what's the best place for them to contact you?
I would say the best place is just check out cakelifebakeshop.com, or check us out on Instagram at cakelifebakeshop. I always feel remiss if I don't throw out there that our claim to fame is that we have baked for Beyoncé 3 times, twice for her birthday. it's always a thing we feel very proud of. And, you know, including things like the second time around for her birthday, her chef basically just came in and got stuff from the case like anybody else would. So I love being like knowing and being able to say, like, you can come get that same funfetti cake that Beyonce got. Like,
Does she have a
we have
place
that.
in Philly?
She and Jay-Z, I've heard, bought a like fancy apartment some time ago. I don't know if they still have it or not, but they used to come through regularly when Jay-Z would have the Made in America concert every Labor Day weekend. And that hasn't been a thing since the pandemic. So it's
Mm.
been a minute, but when he was still organizing that, it was awesome because Labor Day weekend is right around Beyonce's birthday, which is September 4th. So like we just feel so incredibly lucky that we were able to bake for her. Once would have been a dream by itself. Three times like is ridiculous, and we just, you know, we appreciate it so much. We have her like literally in chalk art smiling down from on high in our shop at this point. So like, you know, I never would have thought that I would like talk about Beyonce as much in my adult life as I do, but here we go, you know.
Good stuff. All right, that's it for today, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you
Thanks
so
again,
much.
Nima.